Hello, welcome back to 1874. It's time for another show as myself, Dan Bardell, with Jacob Tanswell, the Athletics Aston Villa correspondent, look back on Villa's 2-0 defeat against Liverpool. Of course, there was a post-match reaction show straight after the game on the channel that was just me. This is the more nuanced take on the Liverpool game with the man that was in the press box, Jacob Tanswell. This show is sponsored by NordVPN. If you head to 1874.io/NordVPN, you'll be able to take advantage of 4 months for free, and you'll also be offered a 30-day money-back guarantee if you're not satisfied. So use NordVPN to get some extra football in your life. I use it weekly. It's very, very handy. So do check that out if you want some extra football. Jacob Tanswell of Pressbox fame, how are you? You enjoy coming to do these shows after I've done one on my own and kind of got the more unreasonable side of my personality out of the system when Villa lose?
Yeah, I must admit, I haven't listened to it yet, so I haven't got an idea or a gauge of your feelings towards it. I should have, to be fair, because it was a long journey. Because I was
I mean, what else would you have been doing if you weren't listening to me speaking on my own on your way home, Jacob?
Well, I was staying in Liverpool, and I've come back down to Southampton for a few things. Quite timely, actually, with Will still sacking.
Yes.
So doing a few things down here, and yeah, it was a long journey, and I didn't care to think that I should have listened to you. I did listen to a few Villa reactions and Slamton reactions, and I also listened mainly to Classic FM.
Nice.
So yeah, a little bit of a gear change.
Yeah, I think when I do the show straight after, I think the fan in me comes out. I think then the next day or 2 days later, when I do the show with you, it's a more reasonable discussion. Obviously, you're more professional than me. I have got a professional side, but I do kind of blur those lines between professional and fan. So let's get into it. I don't know whether, because you're not a fan, I don't know whether you felt the same as me pre-game. I don't think we did a show on Liverpool pre-game where we really discussed the game. Villa are just the kind of team in my lifetime that if a team is having a bad time, whatever Villa are doing, it doesn't really matter that that team's having a bad time because they'll play you back into form. And that's what Villa did to Liverpool yesterday. We're recording on Sunday night, by the way. That's what Liverpool did on Saturday. So that's what Villa did on Saturday night to Liverpool, just gifted them the game, really, the nature of that first goal. Liverpool were on a really bad run. Villa were on a good run. And there's certain places Villa don't travel well to. Anfield, St James's Park, Old Trafford, Selhurst Park. So I kind of had a bad feeling before the game. But because you're not a fan, did you have that feeling pre-game? I mean, you've probably experienced the side of Villa that visits Selhurst Park and Old Trafford, in fairness.
Yeah, I'm becoming attuned to it. But to be fair, and I made a point of saying this in the build-up, in theory, was the best time to play Liverpool because obviously they're in the worst run of form. They won't be as bad later on in the season as they are currently. Villa, obviously, doing very well in the league. In theory, like I say, it was the best time to play them. But you just had that nagging feeling, and I had it, that Liverpool at some point were going to win a game through the law of averages. And this was the type of game that was probably perfect in terms of being an evening kickoff. A team that is going to try and play a team that's good and Liverpool can go toe-to-toe with, not really try and have that level of control. And I did think, Liverpool would win, and because they should be favourites for every home game, regardless of their form, because they're too good a side with too good players to not. And like we've seen, Villa have got a terrible record at Anfield, but it's never really defined them. So this won't either, but there will be regrets, and I'm sure we'll come on to it.
Yeah, in hindsight, not even hindsight, because I said this at the time, actually, after the game when I jumped straight on, I actually think Villa played well. I actually think it was a good away performance. I think if you to look at the stats and watch the game back, Villa did a lot of stuff really well away from home at Anfield. Unfortunately, they've let in a really bad goal at a really bad time, and that's completely swung the pendulum in Liverpool's favour, in my opinion. But, they started the game well, could have easily gone 1-0 up. Morgan Rogers hits the post. I thought Rogers had a really good game, actually. I'm sure we'll talk about him as the show goes on. Had a few moments, Liverpool, of course, but, the goal got disallowed. Ezri Konsa makes a brilliant block. I think that was the frustrating thing for me, is that Villa were more than in the game at 0-0, perhaps even the better team in the first half. In fact, I think they were the better team in the first half, but Liverpool ended the half strongly. Villa then get away with a couple of things by virtue of that offside goal and that excellent Konsa block. But then to just make the mistake that they do at the time that they do from a goalkeeper that, in all honesty, with his experience, should know better. He's played that system probably more than anyone else because he's been at Villa the whole time Emery's been there. it just feels like a lazy, careless pass that's completely killed the game for Villa.
Yeah, of course. The timing it was dreadful for it, and like you say, especially as you not got away with the Ekatike goal because he was offside, but
Yeah.
there were the warning. It was warning signs,
I
right?
mean, couldn't have had any more time to cross the ball in Shabazz.
No, and to be honest, with you, my concerns were actually before that, and Emery even referenced it afterwards. He said the first 30 minutes were really fantastic. Then the 50 minutes before half time, prior to Ekatike's disallowed goal and Martinez's blunder, Villa had just stopped playing. It almost like they were just retreating. They if you even look at the statistics, the average defensive line became a lot deeper. They were winning less duels. They weren't playing out with the same precision as you saw in the first, fourth minute and seventh minute. This is a piece that's going out tomorrow, so I know the timings. Martinez would go play into Anana, Kamara. They were quite sharp. Fan Rogers and Liverpool are having big issues. Right, the first instance, Gravenberch, McAllister lock onto Villa's two centre midfielders. Rogers bare. Onana plays it straight to Rogers. Second time, Van Dijk goes in. Mark Rogers, he's clearly not comfortable in going that high, so he tells Robertson to go on a third time. So Liverpool had problems, and Villa's game plan, by basically doing what Emery loves in terms of build out from the back, was working, and they were being, they weren't going over the top of their pressing, but they were competing quite well. They were playing the game that they wanted to, and then the last 50 minutes, Emery talked in a pretty much build up about being the protagonists. They weren't after half an hour. They suddenly went into their shell. Obviously, Liverpool, the crowd was desperate for a win, desperate for a goal, and it felt like Villa just kind of went into their shells and thought, okay, let's just get through these minutes. Something happened where they just deviated away from what they were doing early on, where they were, as Emery says, really fantastic. So that was more of the concern, and what happened after that obviously showed and underlined that changing of momentum, really.
Yeah, he completely killed us because you're going at half time 0-0. Liverpool fans are probably going in at half time thinking, not much has changed there. We're in a little bit of trouble. We also know generally the trend has been, even though Liverpool have been on a bad run, prior to that, if they go ahead, they generally win the game, and they've done that generally under Slot in the year and a bit since he's been there. But you're right, we did kind of get deeper. It fell after half an hour. Can you think of a reason why that would have happened? Because what we were doing was working. We can talk, and I'm sure we will, about teams have gone direct against Liverpool. Why didn't Villa do that? But we got caught a few times. But also we did break their press a few times and create stuff as well from that.
Yeah, this is what the piece is about tomorrow. Villa's deep build up and goal kicks was basically had an all or nothing sense, right? It was either Villa broke it and could run into loads of grass, got into the final third, hit the woodwork twice, or they would lose in the dangerous area and Liverpool would attack. I'm not sure what particularly happened, but away to Anfield, there's going to be times where every team will suffer for a period, right? 2-3 minutes, where they're going to face sustained attacks. They're going to be camp deep. That's fine. Like, a team can suffer, but you have to work your way through it. Well, I just felt with Villa, they just thought, okay, right, Liverpool are now coming on to us. They're now finding their feet. We're now just going to have to hold and not do what we did initially in the game plan. And that was what Emery's frustration was. He said something happened in the game where the players stopped playing the way he wanted in the last 15 minutes of the first half. That was the concern. As far as Emi Martinez, right, there was a few passes that I thought he played really well, actually. There's one, because you'll see where Salah was pressing, because they want to save Salah's legs for attacking. He doesn't really press. He stands in this cheating position where it's between Luka Dean and Pau Torres. He doesn't really want to press either, but he's just almost like cutting out the pass. In I think 11th or 12th minute, Martinez passed out to Luka Dean, bypassed Salah. Villa got forward, and it's a really good pass. You see what he's trying to do. But then he tries it. Well, he doesn't try the same thing, but he's basically playing the same way, and obviously he goes straight to Salah. And that's just kind of indicative of Villa were really sharp in the first 15, 30 minutes, really concentrated, mostly good execution. Last 15 minutes, decision making got cloudy, and that happened.
I thought Conte's reaction was quite interesting to the goal, because
both goals. He banged the surface of the second goal.
Because I think for the first one, it's almost as if he wanted the ball, but Martinez has gone the other side to Pau and got it horribly wrong. Conte's reaction, I mean, my reaction at home was pretty similar, actually, to how Ezri Konsa reacted. But it did feel that it was a risk that didn't need taking, especially at that time of the game.
Yeah, I don't actually. I asked Emery after this. He said Martinez had to wait for a second longer. So basically, allow Pau to drop into a position where he could receive it a bit deeper and then pass it. And I actually think that would have been fine because, like I say, Salah wasn't really pressing, so Pau could have easily got the ball, paid it to Luka Dean, and they're out. But it was a case of just Martinez just rushed the pass. The pass wasn't to Pau. Pau was backtracking to get in the right position, but the pass went forward ahead of him. And it was just wrong execution. I actually think the intentions were fine. I think maybe in 10 years, 20 years ago, you could say, come out to half time, clear your lines. Actually, if they executed it right, it was a pretty safe move just to go out through the left. But it was just Martinez just had a howler, and you can't account for that tactically.
No, and I'm trying to think how to word this, but obviously mistakes from him have been more prevalent over the last 12 months. Look, speaking to someone who still thinks he is a fantastic goalkeeper, despite me using the term brainless yesterday to describe the pass, I'd still rather Villa had Emi Martinez than didn't have Emi Martinez, because I believe he's a fantastic goalkeeper. But over the last 12 months, and given what's happened in the summer as well, he can't afford to be making mistakes like that, can he, Martinez? Because he's walking a tightrope with the Villa fans at the moment, and it felt like he was just coming out of it a little bit, and then he's gone and made that mistake. And look, players shouldn't be. We play in a certain way, so I get when you play that way, mistakes will happen, and you just used the term that sums it up perfectly. It was an all or nothing approach. Like Villa were either going to break the press, or they might find themselves in a little bit of danger and potentially ship a goal. And the manager obviously weighs that up and thinks in this circumstance the risk is the reward is possibly greater than the risk, and he's prepared to take that gamble, and that's absolutely fine. But Martinez, in his situation, it does feel like he has made more mistakes over the last 12 months than previously in his Villa career. He's had the summer antics as well. Also, there was a game earlier on in the season, I think it was Fulham at home, where he did a similar thing and he got away with it because Conser retreated back on the line. It's almost like just kind of learn. I want you to learn from those things.
Yeah, and a bit like every win or loss. I think with goalkeepers, you can be quite reactionary and saying, "Oh, they've been poor," the last 12 months. But let's be honest. After Man City, everyone's like, "Emi's slowly coming back." He's being consistent. He's doing well. But if you look at the trends, like you say, from the last 12 months, the mistakes he is making are in big games. PSG, Man United final day of the season. This game at a critical time in the game. Emi Martinez used to thrive, and his best performances were in these type of massive games. Now he's making howlers, and yes, or he has made a few howlers. Every goalkeeper will, but like you say, he doesn't endear himself to a fans or fan base after his summer antics. And I was in a mix zone afterwards at Anfield, and yeah, he looked devastated, and he looked really upset afterwards. So he obviously will take professional pride. It's not a case of him just like sacking it off.
Of course not. No, I don't think that.
He's still a goalkeeper. He's still working hard. He still wants to be the best he can be. But obviously, given his reputation has diminished, and fans from who I speak to, people listening might think differently. They still haven't got that emotional attachment they used to have with him. They almost like see him as he's not, or some of them almost see him as he's not their player anymore. Like everyone knew he had this character, and he could be a bit egotistical, but he was their ego. Now it's always like, is he really ours still? And that's obviously meant that he's got less rope than he used to have.
Yeah, I guess as well, fans know that there's a good goalkeeper sat on the bench this time round, which there probably wasn't.
But also, there's options. There's options to recruit and replace. Like we highlighted in the summer, some people at Villa would like, this is the perfect time for him to go. He's still a good goalkeeper, still very good, but he's on huge wages. He's 32, 33. We've got great options, potentially, if we do replace him. Maybe it's a good time to go. And yeah, I think fans obviously looking at Bizot, but they also know that there's goalkeepers on the market next summer as well.
Yeah, I speak again as someone who absolutely loves him, and what he's done for the football club has been fantastic. He's helped Villa grow, no doubt. The summer wasn't ideal. I've not hammered him for the summer like maybe some people have, and maybe like some people would have wanted me to. But I remember doing podcasts and thinking you'd review a match and you'd always speak about like, Martinez made a save at a pivotal point that he always makes that big save, has that one moment in the game. I thought when he came back and we had that 0-0 at Everton and he had a really good game.
Brilliant save.
I thought, actually, could this work in Villa's advantage now? Could this refresh him and, giving him some hunger, giving him some desire, he'll try and win the fans back over? Is he going to get back to his best? Because he wasn't at his best the season before.
No.
But I wouldn't go as far as to say the bad is now starting to outweigh the good.
No.
But the bad is nearer to the good than it was before.
Yeah, you've certainly seen a bit more of the bad. That's a good way to describe it. But yeah, he is still one of the best keepers in the league, and he's still very good. So I don't want to go in on him, but I do think
no, I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to get the balance right.
But I do find it very interesting from a purely PR perspective that he's not come out and said anything. I did think, when we put that piece up that he was waiting at Bodymore all day, in the next international break, he would come out to Argentina press where he probably feels more comfortable, and he'll say, no, I'm just happy at Villa, I'm focused on the season. But he's not said anything.
I'd love to know what he's thinking.
And for a character like him, who's quite confrontational, you usually would expect him to come out and give his side of the story across. But, from my perspective, I know his side of the story, so it probably wouldn't be wise to do it. But you'd think maybe it's just to clear the air with the fan base. He would do that. But it's only last week against Man City where he's telling the North Stand to sing his name louder. So he's still, he's still got that ego, and he still knows that fans do like him and sing his name.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel right, does it? I think his aura's dropped. And even little things like him not getting the captaincy when McGinn goes off, it still feels fractured.
Is he still announced as the world's number one? He's not, is he anymore?
He certainly hasn't been at times this season. No, I don't know whether there was still some other weird announcements in front of people. And for those that have read Greg's book as well, I know that kind of thing was Emmy's idea. So it's it's weird. I guess technically he's not the world's number one anymore because he Donnarumma is.
Yeah, I know, but you got to tell that to Emmy.
Yeah, but I'd love it if he thinks that. Great, brilliant. Play like it. I'd love to see you back in the form that you were when you were.
He's a strong enough character though to come back and.
I don't think it'll keep him awake at night, will it?
Yeah. No, and also things to remember as well is he has had injury issues right this season. He has been not fully fit. And he has played through injury as well. The game straight after the final one, he played through that. So, yeah, he's not been at his best physically or probably mentally as well in terms of being at his sharpest.
Yeah. At the other end of the pitch, like I said, we had problems at the start of the season because Rodgers and Watkins were both toiling. I feel like Morgan Rodgers has come out of that toil now, and I thought he was Villa's best player on Saturday night. At the other end now when it's a problem for me when Ollie Watkins has an off period because I get slated on social media and in YouTube comments. But we're in November. He scored 1 goal this season. I wouldn't have seen that coming. I maybe thought there might be a drop off, but I've got his shirt behind me. I'm a big fan of his. I thought he played really well against Manchester City without getting a goal, and probably won't get the credit for that. It's becoming a problem that he's not doing Ollie Watkins things that Ollie Watkins had done throughout the entirety of Unai Emery's tenure now, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we said in that podcast with Dan Mousley, I was quite critical. I was like, you need more from him. Everyone can say he runs and he's doing a fantastic job and the goals are coming, which Emery will keep saying, but he needs to score more goals. And I don't know, I watch him, and even last season, I know he scored 15 goals. He's just not the player he had been 2 years ago, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
The movement, even last year, the movements are still there, but they're a bit later. He's not really carrying the ball as much. He's not like that West Ham goal I keep going back to, when it's just a flowing movement, step over, bang, top corner, roof of the net.
Fluid, isn't it?
Fluid. Yeah, this is still stuttering. If he, his confidence, he's overthought. I interviewed Dean Smith. He said that he could be his own worst enemy at times. He would overthink, and his confidence is pretty brittle. And
he'd grown out of that though.
Yeah, but maybe that's why Emery it's been very positive about him recently. But it's just Watkins does need to do more. Like, of course, we can always say he does more than just goals. But he's got 1 goal on 15. He's contributed quite heavily on Villa. They haven't got a big XG as it is, but the big chances they have had, especially early on the season, he'd missed. He needs to do more, and me and you have spoken very glowingly about him. You certainly have, but he is a striker for a team that aspires to be in the Champions League. Europe next season. 1 goal in 15, 1 goal and it's now November. It's not good enough, and he knows that, and Villa know that, and he needs to come out of this quickly.
I'd feel better if he was getting assists, which I always thought as well, if he's not scoring, he's at least getting assists when he's had those runs in the past. They're not there either at the moment, are they?
It's just physically, I saw this last year, but maybe his numbers kind of disguised it for me. There's physically, I have concerns that he's not the same. And if he can get back to that, I thought maybe this preseason, and he looked good in preseason.
He did a great preseason.
But there's just something that's it's almost like he's stuttering, and it's not flowing. And I don't know what it is. I'll have to look into it. But he still is a top striker. But we need to see it again. Otherwise, people will forget that.
It's a bit like these streams used to be, and maybe still are sometimes. A bit laggy.
Yeah. I don't know what more to say on here. Like that shot he did second half when he tried to do a volley, and he just went out for a goal kick, and I just thought, what was that? Was that a shot? Was it a pass? I don't quite understand what it was. At his best, he's emphatic. He's flowing. I heard you on a podcast last week. You said he needs to go away. He doesn't have time to think. Even when he had time to think 2 seasons ago, he was finishing well. Now he's not. He's not. That's just the crux of it.
It's like Salah's struggling, so we give him a goal. He needs that. He needs it. But he got that goal when he got that goal against Fulham, and it was an instinctive finish. I thought, right, he'll come now. This is good. He'll start to score again, but it just hasn't happened. And I guess now the issue is that when he is struggling, you really have to try and play him into form, because there's not another centre forward. I don't think Marlon can play as a number 9. I certainly don't think Gasson can play as a number 9. I'm not sure he can play in a 3 off the striker, by the way, but I definitely don't think he can play as a number 9. So there isn't options.
Yeah, and in mitigation, like I've said, Villa, if you want to look at the underlying numbers, their form it's not sustainable really. A lot of the goals have been outside the box. 3rd lowest XG behind only Burnley and West Ham lower. So he has had big chances this season, but he's not being presented one-on-ones and clear-cut chances regularly. In like a striker that he's even in 10th or an XG, or like a Mateta or something who does get bigger chances. You could have 2 reasons. Maybe Villa are struggling as a team to feed him the ball, or maybe he's not getting into positions he used to create those clear-cut chances himself. So I think obviously the team can help him out a little bit more. He needs to help himself, and that's probably the thing that he needs to focus on most. If he can get back to how he was, then he should get more chances and therefore more goals.
But when's this coming? Because I would have expected it to come by now.
Well, how long's a piece of string? I don't know. You expect him to score in the Europa League. Go ahead Eagles, I thought was a great chance, especially in the first 20 minutes when they're absolutely terrible. Missed big chances that game. You don't know when it's coming, and I do think it's too early, but I do think that Villa will try for a striker in January. So
really,
probably till January. Yeah.
Would we have the headroom to be doing something like that?
Villa always find a way, don't they?
Yeah, and then they get to the summer, and the summer's absolute disaster. It's almost as if January is not treated in the same way. It's like, well, the summer's 5-6 months away. Might as well do something. Then he gets to the summer, and it's like, whoa, we're in a bit of trouble there.
You've got the Champions League. It's almost like we're going to gamble almost by strengthening in January to get Champions League. And if we get Champions League, then it'll be worth it. If not, then you have a repeat of what happened last summer.
Yeah, obviously Bardell was missing yesterday, but do I think he would have made a difference? Possibly, like linking the play together. I thought, but I did think we played quite well. Like, we created the amount of chances I would expect us to create.
Were they big chances? Were they big chances though?
No, not big chances.
Rodgers fashions it very well outside of in the box, but a lot of bodies. Cash is a deflection cross.
I suppose.
How many were there big chances?
That's true. But then I'd say
they passed well. They got out of press very well, and I did think they looked sharp on the ball. But how many resulted in a big chance?
But you could say the same about Liverpool.
Well, yeah.
We've given them a goal and they've got a deflection. Like if Cash's shot had deflected in, like it could be like. I thought Liverpool were fortunate that I look at this as in Liverpool haven't won that game, Aston Villa have lost that game. That's
Yeah, they
how I look
weren't.
at
They
it.
were Liverpool weren't at their best, right? This is not the same Liverpool as when Villa went there last year, who were attacking, with great numbers, with real structure. This is quite obviously, understandably, quite a fragile team, so they did need a bit of luck, and it did go for them. And yeah, you make a good point. If Cash's deflection went in, then it could have all changed. And this is football, right? And this is why I don't want to go too overboard in either way, whether Villa played really well, or didn't play very well, because really, I don't think this game will mean much by the end of the season. But it's just this was a good opportunity, really, for Emery to get his first win over Liverpool, given the side's current form.
Could we have gone more direct? I guess that match of
This
the
is
day
interesting.
spoke that they were
Yeah,
surprised at us playing out from the back, which I don't know why they were surprised by that because it's just what we do. But I would have expected there to be periods in the game or maybe trap set where we did go that little bit more direct, which may have suited Watkins a little bit more than the style of football
yeah.
that we played.
The only way they went direct is through long throws, really. They did go direct once or twice from Martinez, but he actually lost. If you remember, he kicked it straight centrally, and McAllister cut it out, and they had a chance from it. But it's
He had his
interesting.
first good game of the season, by the way, McAllister, and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
goalkeeper.
It's interesting though, because Liverpool have faced the highest percentage of long balls against them. So teams and Emery would obviously know that, and Slot's even said himself, they struggle against directness. But Emery probably weighed that up, pros and cons, and thought Liverpool are going to be really eager, really quite tense to press us. We can exploit them by ripping it through the lines. And what's better, us attacking with a 50-50 in the air with Watkins challenging Kanate or Van Dijk, or we get Rodgers into huge amounts of space if we can play through them. So if the City win was built on adaptation and tweaks and clever midfield rotations, this was purely going back to the default setting, really.
I always felt like Liverpool went back to the default setting. Robertson at
Yeah.
left back, Conor
Yeah.
Bradley at right back. They didn't try and shoehorn Verts in somewhere. They just played the midfield that was good last year, that
Yeah.
won them the league. They didn't have the Ekatike or Isak argument because Isak was out. It feels like, I said this pre-game, I felt like Liverpool would land on something against Villa, and almost they did by just going back to their default setting.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. And yeah, I did think before the game that Liverpool would be quite open in midfield, and for the first 15, half an hour, they did show that they weren't as tight as they were last season. But they did have a team that I did think was more reliable, more solid.
Balanced.
Gesson got in behind once, but Robertson was pretty comfortable with him. Whereas if Kirkes, given his form and his lack of discipline defensively, maybe Villa would have had a bit more success if Slot stuck with Kirkes and Verts, for example, and Szoboszlai at right back again.
Yeah, I guess so. I hate doing it. I'm just not seeing it still. I'm not like. I actually think he might be getting worse.
I don't know
It's so
if he's.
harsh to pick on someone who's only been in the league 5 minutes. But I just feel like he's got kind of one setting, and it's just run and see what happens. If I hit someone and I run into someone, so
He's not very. Yeah, he's not very refined, is he?
it's not nuanced enough for me at the moment.
And I remember watching some of his games last year, and I spoke to a few Ligue 1 experts, and they were like,
He had a good record in League One.
he did, but they were like, his first touch isn't good. You would notice that straight away, and I did. So it was interesting. I don't know if he's a guy that should be starting as many as he
Exactly what I
is.
was going to say. If I said this last night, if you're Marlon, you're looking at that guy and thinking, what does he just keep getting starts? He's
The
probably had
reason
more
why
starts at the football club than me.
the
How?
reason why is because Marlon doesn't want to play right wing, if that makes sense. He doesn't want to receive on the touchline. Where Gesson's, no, he's not a winger, but
I'm not sure he's doing that either,
no,
with my eyes.
he should be. That's what he's there for. But if Villa still had Leon Bailey, even last season's Leon Bailey, I still think he'd probably be playing every
I was
game.
missing Leon Bailey last night, which is tells you how it's got to a bad point, hasn't it, down that right hand side for us?
I don't know. I did wonder with Matty Cash's newfound confidence of striking the ball wherever he is, maybe he could play right wing, but then you think, oh, he's going to play right back. That's the thing. But I guess there is something there. I do think every now and then when you feel like he's been playing pretty bad, he'll do something or make a run where you go, oh, okay. But again, he looks like he's not at the level yet. Will he get there? I don't know. But it's an interesting move because it doesn't feel like an Emery type of signing, even though it was in the end. It felt like, right, Villa have got 30 odd million euros to spend at that particular point in the window. Who's out there? Oh, Gesson's there. Emery likes him because he's versatile, pacey, pretty direct, makes good runs off the ball. Had showed from January onwards that he started stepping up his levels. His underlying data was good, but I thought Emery might go for something a bit more proven for that amount of money.
I just always think we're better when Cash is allowed to come forward a bit and Kamara drops in and makes a back three instead of it being kind of Cash who inverts and make that back three.
And then you can play Marlon.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird that we've had that success against Burnley with Marlon and Watkins playing kind of in tandem together, and then we've not seen that again since. It's a little bit strange for me.
Yeah, and it purely was a horses for courses game, wasn't it?
But it worked. That to me, and I never thought he would do it. I knew it would be Gasson or Sancho. I just wasn't sure which way he'd go. I thought he'd go Gasson, and he did. But the way Liverpool have been playing, that Marlon and Watkins combination, I think it was probably worth a go. Given that we're hopeless in the Northwest anyway.
Yeah, I thought it was a potential. This is still not a possibility.
I feel for him.
We see Sancho on the right wing. I think if he
him on the left.
Play there, I know, but he would solve a lot of issues if he could play there.
But if Cash is allowed to come forward, then McGinn can play there. Harvey Elliott. I know he couldn't play the weekend. Harvey Elliott can play there. That seems the perfect place for him to maybe play.
I do think we guess on. He will. I think he'll keep persisting with him, and I do think he'll have a game where he does look really quite good.
He just I'm not writing him off, by the way.
He was playing against Andy Robertson at Anfield, so it is like a pretty big ask for him. I just don't know if he should be starting as many games as he is.
Yeah, that would be my query with it as well. To finish, I need to read this stat from AVFC Statter. I don't know what you make of this. I don't know whether you've already seen it. It came out tonight, just as we were all starting to forget about Saturday night. Statter decided he'd put this tweet out there 24 hours later. So listen to this. Since September 2014, Aston Villa have only 2 away wins in the Premier League against Liverpool, Man City, Manchester United, Newcastle and Crystal Palace. And that's 39 games played. So basically Villa start a season with 5 defeats already in the bag.
I would love to see how that compares with other teams, though, because I'm sure a lot of don't have very good records against those teams. But it's not ideal, is it? And
all in a cluster, all those specifically.
No, just feel like it's quite bogey team, and it's interesting because Emery obviously must know this because he says he made a point. And he was like, on Friday, he was like, we missed out on goal difference last year. We missed out on a couple of points from getting into Europa League. In my first season, if we could find those 3 points from be it a Liverpool, Man City, or a Newcastle away, that could make a huge difference. So it is frustrating, isn't it? But listen, we still got to go to St James's. Still got to go to Selhurst Park.
No,
that's the game I'm missing. I'm not going to Selhurst Park.
That's great. It's a great one to miss, Jacob. I would say. I'm just looking at.
Interesting.
He's reeled off all the results, but not the results, but he's put. I don't know whether you can see that. You probably can't see that on my phone. Okay, he's put a cross, a handshake for a draw, or a tick next to a win. So my basic Villa, my knowledge off the top of my head, I can see here Villa beat Manchester United and Crystal Palace away, the same season. It was the season Steven Gerrard took over. Steven Gerrard was the last manager that beat any of those teams. Dean Smith beat Manchester United at Old Trafford through a Courtney Hawes header in 2021. And then the next one of those batch of teams was Crystal Palace, and Steven Gerrard won. Matt Targett and McGinn scored. Since then, no wins. The best result we've had is that draw in Emery's kind of first season at Anfield. It's just a horrendous run of form against that. I can't explain it. I can't understand it because those teams have had patches of bad form. Manchester United, for example, Old Trafford last day of the season, hopeless.
Everyone's Old Trafford, don't they? Southampton have won there twice in 10 years, or whatever.
Just that, to not have grabbed a win at any of those places since 2021 is alarming to me. And to have only got a point in any of those places since 2021 is alarming. I can't explain it.
I think, especially in the case of Crystal Palace, it is a bit of a mental block because they have beaten him a lot recently. with this same group of Villa players. The others I can't explain because they're quite lasting and with different types of players, different managers. I don't know what it is. It might be just one of these freak anomalies, but like I say, I actually, hot take, I do fancy him to beat Newcastle away. So,
I mean, they've lost to West Ham today.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
No,
So I
triple
do think
captain their centre forward in fantasy
I
football.
saw someone tag me on Twitter saying, "What's your thoughts on it?" I haven't got any
Did
thoughts apart
someone
from
tag you and ask you your
they
thoughts
tagged
on
me.
what?
Yeah,
Wow.
on your Voldemort. That's weird. I actually forgot FPL for the last few weeks.
I just took I thought I'd take a gamble.
You got
The
any Villa
annoying,
players?
just Rodgers at the moment. The annoying thing is that my stepson, I'm basically doing their teams for them, by the way. The decisions I'm making on their teams are absolutely sensational, but the decisions I'm making on my own, not so good. You looking at your fantasy football team,
Yeah, I've actually done well.
This is turned into a car journey with my
Sorry,
dad, by the way.
I've actually done quite well this. I've just looked. Yeah, doing well this week.
Well, okay.
Thank you.
Any Villa
Salah,
players in yours?
no, I actually don't put Villa players in my team. I've never have. I just don't want to. I don't know if I feel I'm worried that it might like influence my coverage of them. Like I'm wanting them to do more, or if they don't do very well, I'll get a bit more annoyed at it. But I've got Salah in there, so
that's good for you.
All's not lost.
I'm sure everyone's absolutely delighted for you.
I think apparently I captained him. Can't remember doing that. I wouldn't have done that, but fair enough. Good.
Okay. Also, just noticed. I mean, we're 36 minutes in here. That I thought for a second then that you had a aeroplane cushion around your neck. Your hood has gone in a very interesting way that makes it look like.
This is so boring to audio listeners, but
yeah, but they could. Yeah. I mean, I could take a photo of it and put it on social media if they.
It's just a hood, mate. Just a hood.
It did look like one of those neck pillows that you put on when you go on an aeroplane, which I'm sure you're well versed in by now with all your travels. Shall we finish? Yeah, should we finish by asking you what you've got coming up this week?
Yeah, a lot coming up. Might be doing something on Southampton. That might be occupied. Got obviously the Maccabi Tel Aviv coming Thursday, so a piece will go out on that probably Tuesday. If you're listening to this Monday morning, piece on the Liverpool game would be out. Going to the under-18s youth game. It's the second leg of the UEFA League Cup tie. And obviously, see what happens with Maccabi. Obviously, then Bournemouth as well. But we've got a few big pieces coming up. That's why I won't be around next week or the week after, Dan. So I'll have to get busy on them.
It's terrible for listeners, loyal listeners and viewers of 18.
Come on, you've got a great roster of other.
No, well, of course we can get people up. You're the man in the know, aren't you? Though you're the man in the press box every week. I like that.
Dan Mousley will listen to this. He's really obsessed. Get him back on. He knows his onions.
Yeah, Mousley, if you're listening, I'd like to do an in-person walking around, have a little bit of a talk about.
He's going to Hong Kong on Tuesday.
He did say that, didn't he? He's probably not going to take me to Hong Kong with him, so probably won't be doing that.
Definitely 1874 budget stretches that far, but yeah, I'll be back in a few weeks. So.
Okay, lovely stuff. Well, thank you very much for coming on tonight and giving up the last part of your Sunday evening, Jacob. And
thank you.
Whenever this comes out, probably be Monday by the time anyone listens to it anyway. So thank you very much to you, the loyal listeners and viewers of 1874. I had a waiter at a restaurant tonight who said his mum loves the channel. So that was
his mum.
Yeah, he said he liked it as well, but he said his mum really, really, really liked it.
Oh, what was her name? Do you know?
I can't remember. I don't think he told me. In fact, I don't think he told me.
She might be interested in coming to another Villa 8 or 1874 live show.
Oh yeah, we're considering it, aren't we? Discussions have started, so let us know in the comments if that's something you'd like to say.
Sorry, without carrying on, it's a bit like the second album, isn't it? Is it going to be as good?
The first one was a success.
That's the question. Can we go bigger? Can we go back? I don't know.
I remember feeling very hungover the next day. After that, I don't drink much anymore, but I did drink a lot that evening. But yeah, 1874 live around Christmas is a potential one, a little Christmas shindig. So let us know if that's something you would be interested in the comments. So if you could subscribe, if you're watching this on YouTube with your post notifications on, give us a like, leave us a comment as well. Leave us a comment about the game, leave us a comment about anything we've said, leave us a comment if you'd like to come to any form of live show that happens as well. Do the same on audio, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, but also you have the novelty of being able to give us 5 stars if you would be so kind as well. So that would be great if you could do that. And we are on video on Spotify now. I don't really know how that helps. I don't think video on Spotify really helps anyone in podcast terms, because you would just go on YouTube and watch it surely. But if it does help you, then brilliant. I'm really glad that it does. There'll be plenty of shows coming up through the week, so keep your eye on the channel. I don't know what yet, but there'll be shows. Don't worry about that. Of course, we've got Europa League on Thursday, so there'll be some stuff in the build up to that and some reaction to that as well, and then the Bournemouth stuff as normal ahead of Sunday. A big game for former Bournemouth player Jacob Tanswell, who takes the week off the channel. The week his team he used to play for is playing Villa, which is not very good, is it?
You make it sound like you pay me to be on here. Like
Yeah, well,
I'm an 1834 employee.
you
But
do it
yeah,
for love of the game, love of the channel.
I do, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoy podcasting, and it makes a change because most of the time I'm on podcasts or radios is mainly talking about quite serious subjects. So the fact we can talk about FPL, anything laid back, makes a nice change.
Who knows? Maybe doing this has helped the Athletic Aston Villa subscribers. You just don't
Probably.
know, do
Who
you?
knows?
We just never
Just
know.
don't know.
We'll never know.
Don't know.
There's no metric in which we can find that out. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me this evening, Jacob. Right then, let's go. Let's end with an up the Villa from me and an up the Villa from Jacob Tanswell.
Up the Villa.